Well, what better way to start an afternoon than with the man himself, Hukumuri, as he strolls down the road. So luckily for us, Herbie and James are in fine form this afternoon and have already managed to find him on foot, and we just came in and joined the sighting. So very, very exciting stuff. Now remember, we are coming to you live, which means that you should send us lots of questions and comments. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or the YouTube chat, and we're going to try and see if we can keep up with Hukumuri. He's already down the road. Unfortunately, there's quite a bit of noise that's coming from the lodge. There's, I think, a bit of a party happening at the moment, and so I think he's just trying to get out of here as quick as possible. Also, what has amazed me is his sort of way that he is with James and Herbie on foot. James and Herbie are right there. You can actually just see them just going past us through the bush. So that's them walking behind me on my left hand side, and you can see Hukumuri is not even running. He's just very relaxed, just walking down the road, and is not too phased by James and Herbie and them on foot. And it just goes to show, everyone keeps giving him this reputation that he's shy and skittish on foot. He's not. He's actually quite relaxed and is fairly chilled about life. So he's just kind of meandering down the road. The interesting thing though is that he's finished with Shadulu yesterday, and he's come on to Djuma, and he's now walking exactly where we had Tundi the last couple of days. So Tundi's been all around this particular section, and I'm interested to see if he turns left up Gari Cutline or if he carries on straight down Central on his patrol. But either way, it's a very, very cool way to start my last drive on Djuma for some time, which is very, very, very cool. I was hoping we were going to get some spots this afternoon, and I wasn't sure which animal I'd like to see. I was hoping Tumba, actually. That was the one I was really hoping for, but Hukumuri is still getting, well, still one of my kind of favorites actually at the moment. I like him. There's something about him. He's, I suppose, not favorite, but he is a very cool cat. I like his attitude, and I like the way he kind of seems to not have a care in the world about these bigger leopards that are around him, and just carries on. He is very hungry, and I'm sure that's because he's been mating, so hopefully he's going to take us on some hunting this afternoon. But while we follow him down the road, let's send you back across to James Henry, the man who actually found this leopard, to say good afternoon.
Hukumuri. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very pleased that Hukumuri was not trying to hunt me. My name is James Henry. Very good. And on camera today is Senzo Mkhize of KwaZulu-Natal. Hello, Senzo. He's nodding vigorously. I did not find Hukumuri. I followed Herbert as Herbert found Hukumuri. Herbert is on security and tracking detail today. And then we followed him, and it was absolutely wonderful. He was completely relaxed. He did give us a little, he turned to us originally, and then he went, and then he just carried on walking. So that was good fun. And then we watched Tristan and Viam filming him for a while, and he just carried on. I must say he looks a lot bigger when you're on foot next to him. Now, what we have over here, totally unrelated to leopards, it is in fact a digging from a porcupino, or porcupine as they say in English. And what's interesting is that it's dug up this bulb. Now, I don't know what this bulb is called in English. What's it called in Shangaan? Herbert doesn't know either, apparently, but this is the plant, this is the flower, and Herbert says, oh, it looks a little bit like a hibiscus, but I didn't know that any of the hibiscuses actually have bulbs. Anyway, if anybody would like to try and identify that, this is the bulb that it makes, and you can see it's been gnawed away by the front teeth of Africa's largest rodent, which of course is the porcupino. Now, amusingly, Herbert said to us the following. He said, if you eat this thing, and he was very, very clear about this, he said, if you eat this thing, you will throw up a huge amount. And then he started to make the following motion. He went, you'll do this, and then you'll do that. You'll do this, and then you'll do that. And then he got more and more active about it. As if to say, to show us how powerful the poison is here, and apparently if you have enough of it, it will in fact kill you. Well, I'm not surprised with all of that going on. I'm not surprised in the slightest it would kill you. Anyway, that's what's going on there. Okay, our plan from here is to head across and then find another leopard today, and that will be Tundi's cub, Chalamba, with any luck. Okay, let's go back to Hukumuri and Tristan.
Well, James, good luck, given that I've just heard some squirrels and some francolins going crazy in the drainage line behind us, which is where Thandi was last tracks of her and the cub were. Maybe James and Herbie are onto a good wicket and they might find another leopard. But Hukumuri all of a sudden went up onto this termite mound, and he's now just stopped and is listening and watching and just trying to kind of work something out. I don't know if he heard those alarm calls the same as we did, but he was kind of walking down the road, all of a sudden stopped, made a beeline for this termite mound, and then went up onto it on the side where there's a bit of vegetation. So it's a perfect place where he can kind of just have a little bit of a look and still camouflage quite well in the shade and in amongst the vegetation. Now, some of you who are very clever at the way that you do things and maybe have some screenshots might be able to get a nice size comparison between Thandi's cub a few months ago and Hukumuri, because both of them have been on this particular mound. And so I think Thandi's little one went exactly where Hukumuri is now and sat exactly there. So if you can maybe superimpose, if somebody does have screenshots from that day, it was quite a while ago. I think it was in January, if I'm not mistaken, or end of December, when she was on top of that little mound, and maybe we can just kind of get a size comparison between the two of them. But you can see he's as wild-eyed as he ever is. That's part of the reason why I like him. He's got this look about him that you never know what's really going to happen. It seems as though he's kind of looking around and expecting something to kind of kick off at any point. And like I was saying just now as well, is that he seems to be a leopard that is not going to lie down for anybody. He's stood up against the biggest now, so we don't know if he's had an altercation with Tingana, but seemingly he's kind of pushed Tingana out a little bit, and we've seen him stand up to Anderson, Djuma, and so he, even though he's not the biggest leopard in the world, he's obviously got something about him that allows him to kind of stand up to these mega boys that we see out in this northern Sabi Sand area. And you can see a couple cuts and scrapes, and that's all going to have stood him in good stead. VM and I have discussed this quite often, because you know VM and I are leopard crazy, and we reckon that he's probably gone through quite a few different sort of areas and fought with different males, and probably has a lot more experience than most of our males in this area in terms of being able to fight and to being able to kind of get away with it. So he's going to be an interesting character, and this is deep into Djuma now. He's right in the central parts of Djuma and seemingly looking quite confident the way that he's walking through. The problem is where he's heading now is going to be very, very, very difficult for us to follow him. Hopefully he decides to kind of turn a little bit. There's a little two-track there, and I'm hoping that if he turns on that two-track, we'll be able to kind of get him. Ooh, which way is he going to go? I see he's just kind of going back that way there. Safari Haze, I hope so as well. I hope that he doesn't find the two of them, and hopefully with Thandi being where she was this morning, I believe she was seen on Torchwood, that maybe, just maybe, she's taken that cub that side as well, and maybe heard Hukumuri coming during the night and has taken her little one far, far away. She seems to be one step ahead of him most of the time at the moment, but that doesn't always last. Oh, look at that. How cool is that? That's very cool. I love it when leopards do that, when they kind of go onto their back legs and they just kind of spring up. And the fact that he turned perfectly into that golden sun is absolutely the best way to see a leopard do that. Now he's got his tail up and just kind of showing that he is indeed a boy. And off we go again. But he's very alert as to what's going on. I wonder if he's maybe sniffed something. The breeze is coming from sort of his nose to his tail, so it's kind of blowing into him at the moment, which means that he might be picking up some sort of scent as he's walking there. I just want to reposition a little bit, because where he's heading is quite difficult and quite thick and not easy to negotiate. So I just want to get the car turned around and hope that he's going to come towards the road. Or is he going to lie down there? I think he's going to lie down, Viam. Maybe let's get ourselves into a better position here. Yes, he's going to lie down. All right, well, that's good news. Lying down is not the worst thing. I was a bit worried about that, because if he goes straight from the direction he's heading, it's going to be really difficult to be able to follow him. Good. Now, while we embrace this heavy-scented popcorn air as we drive past where he just scent marked, let's send you across to Steve so he can say good afternoon to all of you.
Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to all of you good people out there watching Safari Live. My name is Steve Falconbridge. I'm joined by Craig for a change on the camera, and we are out in Djuma in the Sabi Sands on a wonderful afternoon's adventure. Please send through your questions, hashtag Safari Live. Follow us on the YouTube stream. Let us know what you'd like to see. And please, we do value your questions. Remember to keep them relevant to what we're talking about, and you might get them answered. So we have checked already a couple of the dams. Treehouse Dam and Twin Dams, and there's nothing going on at the moment. how marvelous that Tristan has found Hukumuri, thanks to Rexon from Vuyatela, who called in Monkey's alarm calling. Herbie then went in on foot with James, and they managed to find him. And now Tristan sits there on his last drive with us in Djuma for this stint before going up to the Masai Mara tomorrow evening. Very sad to see Tristan leaving. Who is going to find all of the leopards and tell all of you wonderful people the amazing leopard facts that he seemingly has so many of, especially when it comes to specific characters out here. We will be missing him. I might lose a little bit of signal as we go through here, but just bear with us. Plan is to go now into the east, see if we can find any sign, anything in that side, and while we do that, let's go back over to Tristan and Hukumuri.
Well, Hukumuri has decided just to sit for a little bit, which is always nice with this cat because we know how he can move around, and it's always good just to get some close-up views of him and see how he's looking after his little jaunt into the west and after his little romantic getaway. What is quite nice to see is if you look on his left ear when he turns like that, is that his left ear is not sagging at them anymore. So a while ago we saw him, his left ear seemed to be sagging a little bit. And so whatever has happened there, whatever injury or little, maybe he just got a sort of pinched nerve or something that was causing that droopy ear, it's all back and normal again, and he's looking perfect, really. He's got one or two little scars, but otherwise his condition is looking great. He's starting to kind of fill out a little bit in the neck area. I don't know if you notice, he's getting a much bigger dewlap that when we first saw him. It's starting to develop quite nicely, but he does need a meal, and that's quite typical of a leopard that's been mating. And generally you see when the boys have been mating, and the females, they are quite skinny after that. Look, there's some impalas right behind him, Vim. I don't think he's seen them, but there's impalas right behind where he is sitting, just through that little gap there. Maybe to your right, Vim. A little bit more to the right. There they are, just through there. So they're coming pretty much directly towards us at this stage, and I don't think Hukumuri's actually seen them. Maybe that's what he was kind of hearing just now and why he went into the shade. Now he's just kind of staring around and maybe waiting to hear something. Now the thing is that those are male impalas, and so the male impalas sometimes give themselves away by trying to rut and to chase each other, and if he hears that, I wouldn't be surprised he tries to take the opportunity. We know with him, though, he likes warthogs, and so maybe impala's not on the menu today. He's going to be looking more for warthogs around the area, but very cool to see him. He's, like I say, I know he's not everybody's favorite, and because he's come in here and he's kind of been the change of the guard, but I think he's a very cool cat. I like the way that he kind of goes about things. I like the way he looks, and there's a bit of presence to him, and we need a new male leopard at some point, and so at least it's genes from outside, which is good. See, he's now spotted them. Now, yes, Hukumuri is at the prime age for a male leopard. He's just coming into that prime age from now, so we reckon he's about 6 years old. From 6 to sort of 10, 11, that is the prime age for a male leopard. So he's just come into his prime, and this is how he's kind of going to spend his prime years, is to try and dominate an area. And can you imagine how much this guy has been through from his long walk that he has taken to get to this point? I mean, he's done in a straight line. That's not counting every time he's weaved and zigzagged. He's done over 200 kilometers to get to this point. So he's covered massive amounts of distance. How many male leopard territories he's covered, I'm not quite sure, but it's going to be interesting just to see kind of how long he spends here and what actually happens. There's so many young male leopards in the area at the moment that are all vying for this section that it's going to take a very skilled and very kind of impressive male to eventually dominate. So I think he's got what it takes, and like I say, he's shown that he's not scared to stand up to even the biggest in the form of Djuma and Anderson. There he is with his tongue again. How can we take you seriously and talk about how epic you are when your tongue hangs out like that? Doesn't make him look clever, does it? Anyway, poor old Hukumuri. I suppose he's quite hot, and maybe this helps him with cooling his extra long tongue just where he's hanging out. Good. Now while we sit with Hukumuri and we see whether or not those impalas drift closer, let's send you back across to Steve with a rather endangered bird.
Yes, indeed, a beautiful but endangered bird. We have here the southern ground hornbill. Only one of them. They're always found in little groups, always, in my experience, in an odd number, never in an even number. Why that is exactly is probably to do with the fact that they only successfully raise one chick every 10 years. So one individual gets added to the population, so maybe that odd addition is what leads to them only having an odd number all the time. So always 3s, 5s. I think I've once seen a 7. But beautiful. Craig says every time he comes to here of late, there is one nearby. And the reason why they are quite endangered is the fact of habitat loss. They're a large bird. They require a huge territory range or home range to move through. And there's a loss of large nesting trees. Now, they like to nest in the cavities of large trees such as jackalberry, and a natural cavity that's formed over time. And sadly, we are seeing a decline in those trees. And also there it goes. They do fly quite well. They do prefer to walk most of the time. But that very characteristic white outer wingtips with the big black body. Very easy to identify when you see them flying off. But marvelous. It's not their breeding season, but it's possible that they're looking to breed in the area. So while we move on, we are in the Milwaukee drainage system, this dry riverbed. Let's go up to James with the grasshopper.
Well, yes. You find us in the grass, as you can see. We have just lost Ipaki, a beautiful grasshopper that Herbert reckons is still in the molting phase. Did look like a youngster, but Herbie's got another one over here. So let's go to his, because we lost ours, which wasn't very clever of us. Now, the molting phase means, of course, that it's going from one of the instars to a more mature one, or to an adult. 7 instar states, I think they have. Yeah, that is the one. Oh, no, this is a different one. But that's okay. This is very interesting, actually. Can you see it? Yeah. You got it? Okay, do you want me to point with my stick? No, you got him. Got him? No. I can. Here is my stick. Got him there, behind my stick. Okay. So what we have there is a grasshopper basically jumping out of its skin. Such was the fright that Herbert gave it. So it's becoming more mature. Isn't that cool? You can see it looks like it's got 2 sets of back legs, which obviously it doesn't. That's wonderful. So, the way you tell whether a grasshopper is mature or not is by how long its wings are, if it has wings. Most of them have wings, except some of the pergamorphids, which just hop about. But this one has definitely got wing stumps, and each molt those wings will get slightly longer until as an adult it is able to fly. And that will happen 7 times apparently, plus minus. I don't know if that 7 is correct. I think it's about right. So it'll molt 7 times after it comes out of its eggy. And this, for those of you who don't know, or perhaps new viewers, is called a hemi-metabolic life cycle. And that basically means that it doesn't go through a life cycle like a caterpillar to a moth or butterfly, or a beetle grub to a beetle. That's called a holometabolic life cycle. And instead of looking like a worm when it's born, a grasshopper looks like a grasshopper when it hatches from the egg. And then it goes through these 7 immature instar states. Which one of the 7 this one is in, I have absolutely no idea, but I can see on the one that's emerging that its wings aren't quite long enough yet for it to be an adult. Okay, Hukumuri, I believe, is making good on his desire for tea.
Well, he is, but we're trying to just give him a bit of space because the impalas are off on our left-hand side. There's a francolin that's just burst out as he was trotting, trying to kind of chase after these impalas, and that's made a bit of a noise. So I don't want to attract too much attention to him, so I'm trying to give him as much space as I can, but also not lose sight of him, which I've already done. But that's okay. He won't be too far from where we are. He should be just on our right-hand side. There we go. I can actually see him now, so that's okay. How am I going to get through here, though, is the next question. Let's try and go this way, Bilby. So he's just on my right-hand side. The last time I saw the impala were walking up towards the knob thorns on my right-hand side. So I'm hoping that they're still somewhere in that area. Is he walking towards the drainage? Okay. Let's try and get round. There's just so many fallen over trees here that it's making it very difficult to even get anywhere. I don't think we're even going to get through here. Yeah. Right, now I've got to try and see if I can actually get to where he went. Last time I saw him was heading kind of down this way to the right, which should theoretically... there he is, there. So he's just here kind of using the drainage line to his advantage. So he's kind of sneaking along. There the impala are at the jackalberry. So I'm going to sit tight here, and we're not going to have the best view of the impalas, but he's just off on my right hand side. Behind this tree is where he ducked down, and he's going to hopefully use the bank. There he is, actually well spotted, Vim. Vim can see him just through this kind of thicket, and so he's not far from these impalas at the moment. I just want to see where he goes. The impalas are obviously very alert. They kind of know with a francolin shouting a vehicle that there's something going on, and so if he can drop down without them seeing him and he can get into the drainage, then he can use the bank to go along and probably get himself quite close. But it's amazing watching him. He's quite a calculated thinker, is Hukumuri. He gets to this sort of situation where he watches the direction that they're moving, and then he kind of runs and tries to get in front of them as quick as possible and then hope for them to move towards him. And he's going to be very, very active this afternoon in terms of hunting. He's not going to be sitting tight. There he goes, Vim. He's just stalking in front of us now. So he's just trying to go slowly, but he's not watching the impalas. You see, he's looking at an impala in front of him. So now he's down, look. It sounds like that impala might have seen him. Let's just see. What's wrong with that impala? That impala can't snort properly. Well, that impala is not going to be a good impala for the rest of them. Now I wonder what's going on. Normally they have a much more nasal snort, but that particular impala can't actually make any noise. Now I think Hukumuri has misjudged what was going on here. He was trying to hunt the impala that's actually down in the drainage and not these ones on the left, and he moved too early there. That one is the one I think he was trying to go after. That one has no idea what's going on. None of the others can see Hukumuri, and now that he's down on the ground, nobody can actually see him but that one that's got the... there we go. Now they're alarm calling, but they actually can't see him. That is so weird. I don't know why that impala can't make a proper noise. It sounds like Jared at the moment. Jared also has lost his voice in the last few days. Where's he gone? You know, there he is. He's just right down low to the ground, trying to stay as hidden as possible. Child of the universe, you say this is very exciting. It is very exciting. What a way to kind of kick off our afternoon for Cataday. You always want to try and have active cats, and when it's sunny like this, you always think that it might not be a possibility until later in the day. But straight off the bat, Hukumuri is busy and moving, which is really good news. But it's amazing, this impala. That's not an impala you would want if a leopard moves around, because you're not going to hear that alarm call at all. That one I don't think has seen Hukumuri. It's the one just to the right of that, there, that one there, that has got the problem with its nasal cavity. So I wonder what's wrong with it, that it can't make a proper snort. Do impalas lose their ability to make noises? I don't know. It's the first time I've ever seen an impala that can't snort properly. Very weird. but they definitely have no idea where he is. I think that impala saw him briefly, and now it has no idea where he is at all. The other impala that is alarm calling is one that is down in the drainage, and that impala is snorting just because another one is. It has no idea where this leopard could be, and it's kind of moved off more to the right-hand side. So you can see where Hukumuri is actually facing, is where it's gone. It was towards the left of that dead tree. There it is, straight ahead actually. So it's just sitting there, and it's looking up towards the other impalas, but it has no idea where Hukumuri is. And if it just bolts and runs, it could very well run straight at him. And you can see it's twitchy, it's kind of flinching at any sort of sound. Amazing. So Aiden, who's 6 years old, well, Aiden, they are a hoofed animal, so they're in it's very, 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 very distant relative of the deer. So they kind of both are animals that have hooves, but not really related in terms of a close family. So it's like you having a 67th cousin or something like that. It's not going to be a close relative, so it's not like an uncle or an aunt or a brother or a sister or something like that. It's somebody that was part of your family many years ago, and then kind of have separated out. But they are part of the same kind of antelope lineage. Amazing watching these impalas because none of them actually know. The Franklins are calling, and so they're all snorting at the Franklins now. They actually cannot see him at all. Squirrels now going. Very funny. I think it's mass hysteria, but no one can actually see where he is. But you can hear the sound of a proper impala alarm calling. It's that much more nasal sort of... Zika, maybe. I think he's just sitting now because he knows he's been seen, and that one impala has alarm called, and so he can't move now until the impalas start to relax a little bit, until the impalas start to kind of get into a situation where they forget that he's actually there. There's the impala, and there he is. And so he has to just sit tight and wait now, and maybe the impalas will walk towards him. Maybe they'll drift off into a different area, and he can then follow again and reposition himself. But for now, he's just got to play the kind of waiting game. Squirrels are alarm calling, birds are alarm calling, the impalas are on high alert, they're snorting, and so until everybody starts to calm down, he's got nowhere that he can go because all the other animals are actually going to give him away and make it very difficult for him to be able to actually get anywhere. So he's just sitting now waiting for the impalas to forget, waiting for the squirrels to lose their kind of sort of patience with him, and then he can start moving again and trying to get himself into a better position. He might get lucky and an impala might walk straight towards him, but at this stage I don't think so. I think the nyala are going to stay dead still until they see anything. Good. Now while we sit here and listen to the cacophony of alarm calls, let's send you across to Steve with a different type of antelope.
Yes, indeed. How marvelous it is that you have Hukumuri, and maybe he will give you some entertainment shortly, but we thought we'd stop, seeing as we've finally found an animal, and here is a beautiful nyala bull. There are in fact two of them, and an animal I'm pretty sure, an animal the size of Hukumuri would struggle to tackle. I have not heard of or seen or heard any reports of a leopard killing a nyala bull. Something we've been discussing at length. We found what we seem to be the Torchwood Pride the other day. It was down on Chitwa with a nyala bull. But I've never seen a leopard. Even Scott had Tundi one day walking. She walked straight past nyala bull. She didn't even look at it because she just knew they are too big, too powerful for me. Or maybe he was invisible with his camouflage. Not sure. Kruger, can we get this Franklin just up here on the bush there? Can you see him? Just there. Eclair, yes, they are very nice antelope. I do really enjoy spending time with nyalas. They're always quite entertaining. And here we got a beautiful Franklin. I wonder if anyone out there knows which Franklin this might be. It's definitely a male. It's sitting perched on top of the branch and was busy calling. I was doing a little bit of preening. Hashtag Safari Live if you know what Franklin this is, or what spurfowl this might be. Let's see how many of the birders are on today. It would not be an afternoon drive with me without a few birds. And it's nice to see one sitting out in the open. They so often disappear into the undergrowth. And if you look closely, you can see it's got orange legs or pinkish legs, and the beak is black with that very nice white eyebrow stripe called the supercilium. Let's see who can quickly comment and tell us what species this is. Very common bird for assisting us in finding leopards in the name of Hukumuri. I think Herbie and them found it from Wrexham. They heard monkeys and Franklin's alarm calling, and such a good indicator of a large predator moving through. Chuck, very funny. Benjamin Franklin, he says. Very funny indeed. It is not a Benjamin Franklin. Jason, Frank the Franklin sounds very good, but no, it is not. We're looking for the species. What type of Franklin is it? Is it a Shelley's Franklin? Is it a crested Franklin? Is it a Natal spurfowl? Which one is it? SA, it is not a common spurfowl. Kruger, can you see in the road just up ahead? There's a wasp. Is it digging in the road there? Just keep going. Over there. There we have got a wasp, ladies and gentlemen, busy digging in the sand. If we just focus there a moment, there he is. That is one of the spider hunting wasps. They burrow into the ground. They'll catch all sorts of spiders, sting them, drag them into a hole in the ground, and then lay an egg either inside the spider or on top of it. And each of the eggs that hatches will form a wasp, but that wasp's larvae will go through the process of growing into a fully grown wasp by eating that incapacitated spider. So marvelous. There's lots and lots of species of them, and they can be quite aggressive if you get anywhere near their little burrow. They can carry, I think Taylor got a really nice segment with one dragging a baboon spider not so long ago, which is really, really marvelous. But I wonder if any of you are going to get the Franklin answer right. We're going to move on though while we wait. Alan and Debbie, well done. It is indeed a crested Franklin. You can confuse it with the Shelley's Franklin out here, which has got a very nice whitish sort of patch on the chest. The Natal spurfowl has got orange beak and orange legs, which is quite easy to remember. And you should not mistake it for the Swainson's. Here he is, right up and close. The Swainson spurfowl, which has got that really red face. Do not confuse them. You can hear one calling in the background. Marvelous views we're getting of this gentleman this afternoon. And you can normally tell male and female by the spur on the back of the leg. That is what they fight with. You can see on the right, on the left leg there's that spur. Is there? Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. It's definitely a crested Franklin though. I'll show you the marvelous pictures in the book. Yeah, definitely. The female definitely lacks the spur, so this is actually a female, in fact, not a male. I thought just by the way it postured up on the branch that it would be a male surveying the territory. You can see how colourful or how cryptically coloured that neck is. Is he going to jump? Is she going to jump? Very nice seasonal change in food. We'll be feeding a lot of seeds and bulbs at the moment and insects. And later in the year, they'll be scratching through all sorts of dung to feed on whatever beetles and larvae there might be around and feeding on some seeds. So here we go. Before we run away, here we get the crested Franklin over here. You can clearly see the white eyebrow stripe. You should not ever mistake it for the Swainson's, which is down here. That red face. And then if I go back onto the other side, here is where some people can get confused. But the Natal spurfowl, orange beak, orange feet. Very easy. Okay, so let's go back over to Tristan and an animal that would like to eat the Franklin and Hukumuri.
Well, I think Hukumuri is actually too hungry for a Franklin right now. He's not in the mood for that. He's after rather large meals. I think he's looking for impalas and warthogs at this stage, although he looks like he's resting now, doesn't it? It looks like he's kind of got his head down. Can't see any sign of the impalas anymore. One impala that was down in the drainage ran off up that way, and the others were drifting around here, and I didn't want to move because I don't want to get into a situation where we chase them off. But I can't see them anymore, so I might just reposition just ever so slightly, just so we can see him a little bit better, because he got up and moved 2 steps and then lay back down again. So if we just go forward slightly... Can you see the impalas there? Yes, the impalas are still there. Okay, so the impalas are still near the jackalberry, in and around, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself into a situation where we're behind this bush, because he looks like he's having a nap now, so he doesn't look like he's in the mood to be chasing just yet. I think he knows he's got nowhere really that he can go, and so he's going to have a situation where he's going to just try and sort of sleep it out and wait maybe for it to get a little darker, for the impalas to move into a better spot for him to be able to then hunt. But for now, it's sleep time, and you can see he's kind of breathing quite heavy. He's, I suppose, been fairly active. It's been quite warm this afternoon, and he's run around and walked, and so he's earned a little bit of a heavy breathing session and a bit of a rest. And it's a clever tactic because he knows from where he is now, there's nowhere he can go without being spotted. So for him, better to wait here, wait for those impalas to really forget about what's going on, and then he can creep along and try and get a little closer and hunt them again. Now, while we sit here and wait for him to start to kind of wake up and think about what he wants to do, let's send you back across to James Henry on Bushwalk.
Hukumuri and I find ourselves with something in common at the moment, thinking what to do. I was standing in this area, and Kirsten said, I'm going to come across to you for a segment, and I thought, well, that's fine. And then I thought to myself, well, what am I going to tell these good people who are watching the show? Well, luckily for you, right now I've just found something to tell you about. Come over here, Senzo, if you don't mind. Thank you so much. Very good. Look how this clever spider has created itself a little home. That is the spider, you can see it there. Looks like some form of wolf spider to me. Can you see the spider, Senzo? Yes. You can, excellent. Then suspended inside that web, seemingly impossibly, is the egg sac of the spider. So this is really most impressive parental care of the eggies and protection of the eggies. You see how she's managed to pull all of these Pogonathra squarosa inflorescences together. She's created a sort of cocoon around and then suspended perfectly in the center this egg sac. And now she's standing guard over it to bite anything that might come and try and eat it. Don't worry, my dear, I shall not try and eat it, I promise. I have no desire to eat spiderlings. She's just raising her legs in the fight position. That really is astounding. And like I say, I think it's a wolf spider. Paula, you say, ew, spider. No, Paula, we don't do that. On this show, we love spiders, don't we, everybody? Tell Paula spiders are lovely. Look, I wouldn't like to find it in my bed, obviously, Paula, and that's the thought that's sort of coming to you. You're imagining this thing suspending itself down from the rafters of your room and sitting on your face while you're fast asleep. Well, it's unlikely to do that. It's a very clever, quite remarkably constructed creature that is capable of designs that human beings have probably only just managed to achieve with technology at our disposal. Really is quite stunning. Anyway, that's the wolf spider, I think. And if you see them on the ground at night, their eyes, in fact, sparkle, they twinkle. So they're actually quite easy to spot at night. I think they're nocturnal largely, and I suspect this thing will basically rest here on the egg sac until night time and then disappear onto the ground and catch ants and termites and things that come out also at night. Very nice. Okay. Shall we continue? Senzo, you happy to continue? Well, Sinak, you want to know when the spiderlings will come out. I really don't know, and I don't think there are many people that do. Often when I say I don't know, it's because I just haven't read it, but I haven't found any information on those. And in fact, we had, for quite a long time, we had the egg sac of the brown recluse spider, the brown button spider, in the tent, and we kept them. How long did we keep them for? I think sorry, Herbert's just told me to shut up. I think we had those spiders' eggs for about 4 weeks on, and they just didn't hatch at all. So we thought we'd get an idea from that. He's heard alarm. He's heard alarm calls. Let's go and find out. So I'm not sure. See now, I'm sorry about that. Let's just try and get an update from Herberto. No, he's actually seen something, I think. It's difficult to have sort of telepathic conversations with him. Sounds like a herd of elephants walking next to me, but it isn't. It is in fact Senzo. Vanessa, you want to know what would happen if a predator tried to attack me now on foot? Well, that's why I carry the stick, Vanessa. In it is a very sophisticated sword, a predator evasion sword. I would rip it out, and I would say, go like this, I'd go on guard, and then I would get everyone behind me, and I would then parry. As it slashed with its claws, I would parry those away, and then I would jab at its belly until it backed off a bit, and then as it opened its mouth, I'd tap it on the lips, make it close its mouth. That's obviously rubbish. Vanessa, we found a predator on foot today. We found Hukumuri, and his sole reaction was to try and get away from us. He gave us a little snarl, he went, and then he walked away, just to say, look, don't come any closer, because I'm not comfortable with you. But the predators, the key thing about the predators is that they don't see us as something to eat. They see us as something to fear. And so, it's just very unlikely. What's he gets all? Okay, there's some mongoose on that termite mound over there. And I think that's obviously what the birds were alarming at. The birds that Herbert heard. Okay, from bird alarm calling across to an actual bird.
Yes, we do. A little bird just pottering along. This indeed is the Cape turtledove, also known as the ring-necked dove. And we see so many of these. I know it's easily overlooked, but they are quite important birds out here. And here you're going to see it drinking. And the turtledoves, or most doves, have actually got a unique ability to suck water up like a straw. Whereas most other birds have, see how he's sucking it up there? Most other birds have to dunk their beak and then lift it, switching back. The doves are actually physically able to, you see how that Franklin alarm called and the turtledove swung off. But there is another one sitting up in the bushes there, enjoying the beautiful vistas. And turtledoves, or doves in general, are quite sort of interesting in that they produce something, doves as well, and pigeons, known as pigeon milk, which is something that they generate in their crop. It's mixed with seeds, and it's something that they feed to their youngsters. And it's quite unique to pigeons and doves, and they don't have to bring water back. And what other seed-eating birds do is they feed their chicks insects to give them moisture when they're in the nest. But the turtledoves, or the doves and pigeons in general, they produce a very nice pigeon milk, which the chicks basically get out of the back of the mouth. The female regurgitates it for them. And it is for that reason that the turtledoves can only have 2 chicks at a time, because they can't produce enough of that food. Obviously, if you're a parent providing insect food or seed food, you can bring a lot of it back. But if they're reliant on the pigeon milk, there's only so much to go around. Marvellous. They do produce a beautiful little platform, very messy platform nest, and they're quite known to defecate all over it, and that helps to stick it together. So not the most hygienic of birds with their runny, dribbly, pigeon milk defecations. Becky, you've got the European turtledove. You don't have the, what we call the Cape turtledove. Let me show you quickly. The European... Is it here? Yeah. Here is the European. It lacks that neck. It lacks that ring. It's got a neck patch, but it lacks the ring. If I show you the turtledove, let's just go back. Sorry. There is the turtledove there. You see that very characteristic ring on the neck. That's why it's also known as the ring-necked dove now, but Cape turtledove. But I think a lot about their behavior is very, very similar. Very successful birds. We find pigeons and doves all over the place. They love cities. They do very, very well. Okay, well, it looks like the Captain Hook himself is moving, so let's go over to Tristan.
He is up and moving. He's now decided that... I don't know, he went from complete slumber to up and moving. He's looked at a few impalas and now is going the opposite direction once again. I'm sure the impalas are about to shout at him because of the way that he's moving. So, there's our impala that can't shout, that is trying to shout. There he goes, he's just meandering off. Right, let's try and kind of follow him. It looks like he's not interested in these impalas now. He's kind of gotten into a situation where he's just kind of strutting off. I wonder if he's going to go find himself a place just to have a proper nap where he's not being sort of... I don't even know what the word is to describe what that impala is doing. It's not shouting. It's almost like whispering at him and trying to kind of make a noise, but really not actually sort of succeeding in any way. But let's just try and get around. Child of the universe, it depends. It depends if the impala saw him or if it was just scent or, you know, just kind of other things alarm calling. I generally find if they haven't seen a leopard, then it's fairly quick. They kind of hear alarm calls and they might snort or sniff, and they might snort once or twice and then they kind of forget and start feeding. These guys had already started to feed again, and then it was just that one impala that just saw Hukumuri get up and walk that started snorting again now. So the others were actually feeding. They weren't really paying attention. Now, where's he gone, Bulby? I don't know where he headed. Where has he gone? Oh, 11 o'clock. He's going towards his termite mound. Be a good boy and go on your mound. Now, here Rex is trying to call me on the radio. Yeah, go ahead, Rex. Yeah, FM Rex. I'm just here, Gari Cut Line, Central Junction. He was hunting impalas, he's now mobile again. I'm just going to try to keep up with him. So, Rexon wants to try and come and join us. And just myself at the moment. 2 other stations expressing interest. Right, now where has he gone from here? So Rexon just wants to come and join us, given that they're driving a group. You would have heard that group, I'm sure, if any of you were on the dam cam. There was a little bit of a shindig, should we call it. And I believe a lot of you have been chatting about it. There's a little shindig that was going on. Now, VM says he can still see him. Other side of the quarry across the road. Okay, thank you, VM. So he's going pretty much down back towards the Mulawati, which is interesting. I wonder if he's going to head towards the little water hole that we've got here for a bit of a drink. There he goes, just on our left. Just want to jump onto this 2-track because it's going to be much easier to follow him. So I think he just got to the point where he doesn't really feel like hunting those impalas anymore. He just kind of thought to himself, too much effort, I'll just carry on. But here we go, he's going to pop out right in front of me. There he is. And he should go, there's a water point just here in front of us that I think he might go and have a bit of a drink, but he's going to scent mark first. And given it's been a warm afternoon and he's been panting, he's going to go up on his back legs. Watch. Let's see, how high does he go? Nope, decided that it's enough, that he can just scent mark in that area. But like I say, given all the sort of heat that he's had and panting, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a bit of water. Now, there are quite a few guys that are trying to call me on the radio, so... So, sorry, Curse, please can you repeat that? There's about 20 people talking at once on the radio at the moment. So, Ashton, the dewlaps get bigger with age, and generally that coincides with breeding. So as a male starts to breed, he's obviously coming into his prime. Now look, it's looking at the Franklin. That's why he's waiting for the Franklin to move before he heads to the water. And so generally it's kind of coincides with their breeding period. And a female that sees a big male with a big dewlap knows that he's probably a dominant individual and therefore will mate with him. Now tail's right up in the air because of that Franklin. That is probably would alarm call him at him if he didn't have his tail up. Now let's just try and get towards where the water point is, because I think he's going to have a little drink. I don't know, it looks like he might walk past, but if he's going to drink, it should be here. Yes, there we go. He's going to have a drink. He's just not drinking on the very nice side, that's all. So we're going to just try and sneak in on the left side here and try and get a front sort of view of him drinking. So hold on, Vildy. I should be there in 2 seconds. That's quite nice. So, nice view of him just having a little kind of quench of his thirst, which is, I suppose, not a bad thing, given that he's obviously kind of walked quite a bit, and like I say, he's got a situation where he's kind of been panting quite a bit and moving around for quite some time. So it's not something I didn't expect from him. I would have thought that he was going to have a few sort of drinks of water as we were going this afternoon. Very, very cool. Vim, I'm going to go forward a little bit for you so you can get that rock out the way, because there's a little rock that's right in Vim's way there on the sort of right side. So if I just go round a little further for Vim, we should have a situation where we can get that rock. No, now don't go closer to the rock. So he's now going closer to the rock. Of course he would. That's how he is sometimes. But look at that, isn't that cool? Having a proper drink. I believe a lot of you could hear him actually drinking and making to the sound as he was lapping up water. It's such a cool thing to see and to hear, and luckily I think the last angle we got was probably the best one. But he's just going to meander off. I think he might lie down quite close here. Now that he's had a bit of water, he seems as though he's not really racing around, is he? He's kind of just walking along, and looks like he's just going to try and find himself maybe a place to lie down, or even just try and flush out some sort of food item. Lou, how much water in one tongueful? Very little. Remember that when they are drinking, they're not actually scooping water up or drinking like we would. They're using surface tension. So the hairs on their tongue are in surface tension. As it touches the surface of the water like this, and it pulls up, they're then getting a little droplet that's basically being pulled up, and then they close their mouth on that droplet. So it's very little water that they get. And that's why they sit for long periods and just kind of in and out as they try and kind of get as much water as possible. Now, there's lots of people trying to get hold of me on the radio, so I'm going to have to answer all of them now. There's people that are being pretty incessant about speaking to me, so while I try and speak to them, let's just send you back across to James.
Hello everybody. The reason that I was looking a bit scowly when you came across to us was because Senzo sneezed most of his brain out of his ears while we were linking towards us. Tristan is a very popular fellow, and so it's not surprising that everyone wants to get hold of him, really. Okay, for those of you who are interested in trees, the three of you that are interested in trees, Judy H. and who do best friends, here's one that I'm not sure we see very often over here, and it's called a dwarf bush cherry. And the only reason that I find it vaguely interesting is that it grew all over a camp where I used to work called Ngala. Nobody knew what it was until I found a book that I eventually found it in, and it's called Merua parvifolia, or the dwarf bush cherry. and doesn't get much bigger than this, so I mean tree is quite a strong term to describe it, but it's very distinctive. It's the only sort of bush that grows like this, with the leaves in a haphazard clustered arrangement around the stems, and they often grow in little groups of friends together. Isn't that nice? They have something, someone to talk to with a common language. So that is the Merua parvifolia, or the dwarf bush cherry. Now, we are quite close to Beefleshoek Dam. We're not going to go there because that's where Stivovo is going now. We are going to head into the drainage system that feeds... Does it feed? No, it doesn't feed the dam. It's off to the south of the dam. And it's one of the most beautiful areas on Djuma, and in fact I'm very excited to get in there and walk around. Lots of steep banks and rocks and sort of caves and things. And we wonder if Tundi didn't leave her cub in there and won't perhaps come back and fetch her. It's really kind of hoping at this stage. Tundi was seen on Torchwood to the east of us earlier today, this morning, and well, we've had no sign of her. But she wasn't with the cub, which makes us think that perhaps she's hunting and that she's left the cub quite close by. So that's where we're going. Okay, on we go. Herbert is up front, looking particularly irritated by his lack of success there. Willow Wanderer, you say, does the dwarf bush cherry have edible fruit? You can sort of think of small sweet cherries, can't you? No, it doesn't, not that I've seen. I think they don't. I'm sure there must be areas where they grow a bit bigger than they do here. I've actually never seen one with fruit on it, but they must have fruit, otherwise they wouldn't be able to reproduce. So I'm not sure about them. But we get another bush cherry called Merua angolensis, which is called the... It's gone. Something other bush cherry. And they have got fruits which are not edible. They're inedible. They look like sort of peas in a pod, and they've got no taste at all, and probably not very good for you. So possibly eaten by, and sort of vectored, carried around by elephants and green pigeons. No, Spyro, you're being very kind. But I think you're being overly kind. You say, my recollection of the Latin names astounds you. It's only because I choose to tell you the plants of which the Latin names I do remember. There are plenty I don't, unfortunately, and I often have to ask for help. Here's a little hymenopterid. You know what I'm talking about, do you? It's a little bee-type creature on this piece of grass, and I'll just bring it down closer to you. There you go. Now I say it's a hymenopterid because it looked a little bit like a wasp or a bee, but I'm wondering now if that is in fact the case. It might be a beetle, which would be a coleopterid, and I think that's what it is. I think it's a beetle of some sort. At this scale it's quite difficult to tell, but it looks like it's got elytra, which are of course the hardened and therefore useless front wings that make no, well, they're very useful for defense but terrible for actual flying. And I think that's what we have there. Then if I let this one go, oops, nearly shot him off his grass branch. There's also a beetle over here. This one is very obviously a beetle though. I'll bring it to you, Sinzel. You see this beetle, Sinzel? And this one is very obviously a beetle, of course, because it's clearly a flightless beetle. And you can see it's flightless by the fact that the elytra, which is the shell on its back, which are in fact the hardened forewings or front wings, you can see that they've actually fused together at the back, meaning that he cannot open them up. He doesn't have hind wings that are useful for flight. Watch him fly off now. It would be quite funny, wouldn't it? Not for me. Yeah. Now I'm pretty sure that those are completely fused. So this is a flightless beetle. Tiny little thing. Who he is, I don't know. What he is, I don't know. I'd be very surprised if anyone knew exactly who he was or what his story is. Marvellous. Now, Steve and I had a bit of a disagreement the other day. He doesn't know we had a disagreement, but in the evening I went to Buffelshoek and complained about the poor parenting of the geese at Buffelshoek Dam. He, the next day, said he thought they were very good parents. I would like him to now justify why he thinks they're good parents, because I think the loss of your children qualifies you as a very bad parent.
Well, James, it's very hard to know if we've had a disagreement if you don't talk to me about it, but that is fair enough. You were probably watching the show and then did not talk to me about it later, but I think Egyptian geese can be marvelous parents. Here, this individual goose is with her 8 chicks still. They are still alive and doing well, and they just swam across the river or the dam and are now busy giving themselves a little bit of a once-over. So I don't know why James thinks they're bad parents. I think maybe if they're a young pair, they might not be as successful as an older pair. Because every year they lose the chicks. Well, if Egyptian goose were not good parents, we wouldn't see as many Egyptian goose as we see. So there must be something working. Surely they don't have all of them survive, but the number of Egyptian geese that are across the continent and are ever rising, and apparently even in the United States as we speak, goes to show that there is something successful in their breeding strategy, and that might be the fact that they have so many chicks at once. That might be that they're very vigilant. I mean, when the babies are around, you don't really see the parents doing too much feeding, keeping a very good eye out on whatever it is that might be coming to approach. Just this pair. So James knows this pair quite well. So, okay, James, well, I concede defeat to you, but I will be watching this pair very closely, and we'll see how they do. Because the pair there's a couple pairs at Chitwa Dam that have successfully reared the chicks this year. There's at least 2 pairs there that seem to have been doing quite well. So we will watch these guys very closely. It's been a few days and chicks are still all alive. Yeah, Kirsty's keen for us to watch them closely, and I am also hoping they will survive. And another permanent feature these days at Buffelshoek Dam is the marvelous hippos in a very green, murky water. Almost something from Kipling and his description of the grey, greasy green Limpopo River. It's got a very similar sort of colour to it at the moment. And the hippos are responsible for a lot of that algal growth because of their defecations in the water. The nutrients filtering into the water, also from the rain, leads to big growth of vegetable matter in the water. And that is what the Egyptian geese actually are able to feed on. With their mouths, they filter feed, taking out all the goodness out of the water. So they're quite instrumental, the hippos, in providing that, and also for providing food for the multitudes of fish that are no doubt in the dam, and then that provides food for the multitudes of fish-eating bird species, and even the odd crocodile, which we believe, we've been told, last was seen in 2015-16 in this dam, but I've yet to see a crocodile. The life of a hippo really is a tough life, don't you think? Hang around all day in the dam, keeping cool. Shamsung, that's a very good question. Shamsung wants to know who initiates the mating between male and female hippo. I've no idea, Shamsung. I'm sure if a male has got a territory, I'm going to just go by what I think, and someone out there can probably prove me wrong. But a male has got a territory, and the territories are within the dam itself. Now, if the male hippo does not, if the male hippo does not look after that territory, he won't have females coming in. But by having a pod or a territory where the females come in, when they defecate or urinate, he'll probably pick up the scent from them and know whether they're an estrus or not, and they actually mate in the water. So when females in general, most animal species, when they come into estrus or heat, they generally are quite quite motivated to mate. And unless they're very young, they're quite motivated to mate. There's a big driver behind it, and they're normally quite willing for the male. And if he is obviously the male's generally already, but if he can smell that she's in estrus, then it's a very good chance he will probably instigate it. But it's all chemicals, it's all pheromones, it's all smells and tastes, and I've no doubt the hippo knows exactly what's going on in and around his harem or pod of females. And they do everything in the water, hippos. It's why they have been reclassified into the same family as the whale. They live in the water, they communicate in the water, they breed in the water, they reproduce in the water, mating as well. The offspring are obviously given birth live in the water. They suckle in the water. Yes, they do absolutely everything. So, and they are in a pod. They don't swim though, so how they can be a whale is really bizarre to me, but that is the way it works. Because of all the other defining characteristics, a hippo is in fact a whale. In Afrikaans, they're known, if we translate it, they are a sea cow. So how marvelous is that? We're looking at a bunch of sea cows with a beautiful vista over Buffelshoek Dam. And we're going to leave me and the dam and go back to Tristan and Hukumuri.
Well, Hukumuri is still striding along. He's made life a little difficult in terms of trying to keep up with him. He's crossed over quite a lot of thick stuff and through a lot of tamburti thickets, and there's been lots of looping around just trying to keep up with him. But so far so good, and he's kind of just ambling today. It's quite nice actually. It makes a nice change from how he can be sometimes. The last time I saw him was, I think, the time that he chased warthogs everywhere, and that was, well, nothing short of an absolute nightmare trying to keep up with him. So this is a lot better today. I like the ambling pace that he's setting, and far more male leopard-like than big dominant male leopard-like, should I say, than young hooligan male that we normally see from him. Well, it's interesting the route that he's taking. It's the first time I've actually seen him walk this way, or even would have found tracks from him here. I've never seen him actually walk this route or tracks going in this direction. Generally, he seems to go to the dam and then down Twin Dams Road. But I think maybe with all the kind of ruckus around the lodge, I think that's why he's done this little detour and just kind of come through here. The thing is, though, he must know this area because he's literally taking the exact paths that it is to cut through, and so maybe he's walked here. We've just never kind of picked up his tracks. Well, shame, boy. Are the Franklins giving you a hard time this afternoon? Now, Kirsty, the area that we're in is we're actually right where Tandi's den site was in December. So this is the little two-track that took us to Tandi's den site in the Mulawati, just south of the Wahlberg's Nest, on Twin Dams Road. So he's literally walked straight over the den. That's exactly where he walked. It's pretty much the same route that Tandi took. That's why I wasn't too concerned about us losing him. Had this been a few months ago, I would have been very worried because there was no two-track here, and also didn't really know this area as well as we do now. Now I knew that there was a pathway and we could just loop around, and he'd eventually pop out in front of us, and as he did. So it's all very, very good. But there we go, on to Twin Dams Road. I think he's going to take Ingwe Alley from here and start heading maybe a little bit more west. But while we follow him and see whether or not he does, let's send you across to James with something that flutters by.
Right, okay, well, it used to flutter by. Oh, I see what we were looking at there. Okay, you caught me slightly unawares here. Thank you, Senzo, very much for that. I will tell you quite candidly that I was relieving myself quietly behind that tree. Senzo found an animal and Kirsten just linked straight to us. You were very lucky that I was finished. Now, something died here. It was a bird. It had feathers, therefore it was a bird. Butterflies flown off, but Herbert found tracks of Tandi and Mampimpana, the small cub, coming up here. Where did they go, Herbert? Into the drainage system, was exactly where we thought they might be. So we're going to go up into this drainage system here. Tristan apparently wants to know if I was caught with my pants down. No, Tristan, but I was caught with my fly down. Now we're going to walk quite gingerly through here. It's all very well. Ooh. There's a beautiful bird up there. It's a chagra. There's another one. Flown into the top of that little bush. Can you see it there? Let's go a little bit closer. And then we'll put Herbie up front with his superior eyes once we've seen this bird. You can see this is just perfect leopard country now. There they are. There are a whole lot of them. I wonder why there's so many. There must be some sort of territorial dispute. You got them. Well done. Good job. Good job there. Yes, a chagra. It looks like a young chagra, actually. Black-crowned chagra. Ooh, Michelle, interesting question. You said all birds have a crop. Yes, I believe all birds do have a crop. I'm just now confused between a gizzard and a crop. The gizzard, of course, is the muscular pouch above the stomach that is often filled with stones that crushes their food and before it goes into the stomach. But the crop is the little part here in front of the throat, where often food is stored before it goes down, I think, into the gizzard. I'm going to say that I think some birds have got bigger crops than other birds, and I think you'll find that the predatory birds have got much bigger crops. Certainly if you find an eagle or a vulture sitting above its prey, if it's stopped eating, you'll find a big swollen bulbous crop there. So I'm going to say yes, they all do to a greater or lesser extent. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected. Herbert, on we go. Shall we continue? Philip, you're wondering about my scent marking and how animals would react. Well, it depends entirely on what the animal, So let's take it. Let's pretend it was Hukumuri and he smelt me. He would feel no threat to his territory, but he would smell a predator, and so he would be aware that there were humans around. He wouldn't react in a territorial manner like he might if he smelt Tingana's urine, for example. And the same would go for all animals. That's just a human scent that I've left there. And they don't see it as a territorial mark. They'll see it purely as the presence of human being, the most terrifying predator in all the world. You can hear the babblers babbling. And apparently Steve has now got precisely what I was talking about, a predator that lives in the sky.
A predator that lives in the sky? Is that what you said? Well, we have indeed found a predator that lives in the sky, or should we say in a tree. And what amazing backdrop we have as well, with the setting sun's rays in the distance as the Bateleur eagle surveys its territory. Is in fact a female Bateleur. You can see it wearing the white miniskirt and a little toilet stop. And what's very common in Bateleur and very easy to identify them if you don't see the coloration is how those wings extend down past the tail. Also no feathers on the legs to the feet, which is very characteristic of a snake eagle, and they are characterized as a snake eagle. The Bateleur will feed on snakes and all sorts of other carrion that they might come across. I once watched one in the road engulf an entire puff adder. It had probably been hit by a car, and it just swallowed the entire thing whole. But we are causing a bit of a roadblock over here, so we are going to move off. We are right on our northern fire break with Buffelshoek, northern boundary, Buffelshoek over here. We're going to head down onto Cheetah Cut Line, and who knows, maybe we'll go down to Chitwa this afternoon and have a look at what wonderful things are happening in and around Chitwa Dam, because a nice afternoon game drive sometimes is not complete without a visit to Chitwa watering hole. And while we do that and decide on our next movements, let's go back over to Tristan and Hukumuri.
Well, he's taken Ingwe Alley just like we thought he might. I'm pretty sure now we have a conundrum as to where he's going to head next. Sometimes from here he either cuts over towards Rebecca's or he's going to go down towards Treehouse Dam. Vildi and I are still in two minds as to which way he's going to go, but we're going to have to make a call soon because he's going to approach an S-bend now where there's a whole bunch of mud wallows, and if he decides to go Treehouse Dam, then he'll turn south into the drainage. Now we had the funniest moment just now. We had him kind of walking along, and he walked down the road, and we kind of didn't notice a single change in his behavior. He went sort of trotting down, well, not trotting, ambling is probably a good word to say this afternoon. He was just kind of ambling along, and then all of a sudden we had a situation where we kind of drove right behind him and just kind of were looking, and next thing there was a dyker right next to the road. It couldn't have been more than, I would say, what do you think, Vim? 3-4 meters off the road? Maybe 3-4 meters off the road, and Hukumuri walked right past it without even seeing it. It was highly entertaining because this dyker was looking as though the kind of shock of this leopard coming past and not actually doing anything to him. And this dyker was just sitting frozen dead still until it passed, and then it bolted off as we went past. But quite funny to see that he didn't even pick it up. But he's still just kind of moving around looking. I think he's looking for warthogs more than anything else. I don't think he's interested in all of these other antelopes that are around. I know he's hungry, but I'm pretty sure he's trying to find a warthog snack, and that's what he's mostly looking for. Also a scent marking mission. He's kind of patrolling and scent marking as he goes. Eugen, well, the reason we haven't seen Hukumuri use a tree for a kill is because we've seen very little of Hukumuri on kills, to be honest. I mean, I actually can't remember. I don't think I've ever seen him on a kill yet, have I? No, I don't think so. Brent has seen him on a kill, and he was in a tree when the hyenas kind of stole it, and then he managed to kind of get some of it back. But it's more that we just haven't seen him on too many kills. On Djuma, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know. Curse, can you remember any kills that we've had with him? I can't think of any off the bat, but it's just that we haven't seen him on kills much on Djuma itself, and that's maybe why we're not seeing him in a tree. Most male leopards are not firm lovers of trees. They're big, they're bulky, it's uncomfortable for them to lie in there. You find most leopards that you see in trees will generally be females or young males, so Hosana's age and Tumba's age, but for the most part females are the ones that climb a lot more to kind of just sit and relax than what you'll see from the big boys. The big boys, like I say, it's just too uncomfortable for them to be in the tree itself. Now we're going to try and keep up with him. He's going to take us a completely opposite ways to what I thought he was going to take us. I thought we were going to go along and head westwards, but we're now cutting north up to Quarantine, which is quite interesting. So we're going towards sort of that area, but it seems like he must have heard something because he was kind of walking and then all of a sudden stopped and faced in this direction, so maybe he heard some warthogs. Michael, I don't think he's kind of favoring one foot. I mean, I think it looked like just now he stood on a thorn and was kind of had a little stumble, but I don't know if he's favoring one foot. He doesn't seem to be limping or anything like that. It's difficult to say. I haven't really been paying too much attention on his gait, so I'm just going to have a look now as he goes. No, he looks okay. He looks like he's pretty much walking as normal with a little sort of swagger that male leopards have when they walk along. So it doesn't look like he's favoring either side at all. And there's the tail curling up and kind of carrying on. Shame, he's been shouted at by everything. He's been shouted at by grey go-away birds, impalas, francolins, squirrels. Tough day at the office for Hukumuri this afternoon. Not easy to walk around these areas. But shame. I kind of want him to get a meal. It would be nice to see if he does get a big meal, like a big impala, whether or not he's actually going to kind of have it and put it up into a tree, or if he'll lose it to hyenas, because we, like I say, have hardly seen him on any kills whatsoever. We don't know what he does with them. I mean, I don't think there's a sighting of him on a big kill. I mean, we know he killed that warthog, and he also killed that steenbok in January, but seemed to lose the warthog to hyenas, and the steenbok, I think he just guzzled down before anything happened to it. But we're just trying to get through a little thicket. Vim, you alright there? No buffalo thorn to the arm, Vim? Good, excellent. Good, back towards the road. So we're actually not going to Quarantine. We just did a little kind of shortcut. You didn't feel like following the S-bend of the road to get to where we wanted to go. Benny, how far you can walk in one day, difficult to say. It depends on the day, I suppose. I find with him that he can cover quite a lot of distance. We know the other day that he crossed in from Arathusa just after our drive finished, and he was then kind of seen. We found him the next morning after he had walked pretty much to Cheetah Cutline and then back again. So that would have been a total of easily 10 kilometers. So I reckon he could cover probably way more than that. I reckon that he'd probably be able to do 15, 20 if he just walked all day long, maybe even more if he really wanted to. But this afternoon so far, if I just think about how much we've walked this afternoon, he's probably done easily about 5 kilometers already this afternoon. Maybe a little bit less than that, maybe 4. But it's still a fair amount, and you can see he's still ambling along. He's pretty much walked most of the afternoon, bar a little 10-minute nap that he had in the first sort of thing. So let's see how far he goes. We'll kind of work it out by the end of the evening, how far he's taken us, and that will just be in a short period of the day. You can imagine how much he's going to walk during the night and then even into the early morning. Where are you going to go, boy? Is he going to just scent mark there, or is he going to actually carry on? Nope, that's going to be scent marking. Scraping of the back legs. Oh, we're going to do more than a urination. Looks like it. It's all very boring to do this. You can see a bit of a yawn while he goes to the toilet. I'm surprised he's actually going to the toilet. It doesn't really look like there's very much in that stomach to get rid of, but it seems as though he is getting rid of some of it. And we had not the most ideal view of all of that. Would have far preferred to see him from the front than the back when he goes to the toilet in that way. Anyway, right, now as Kirsty has reminded me, speaking of toilet breaks, let's send you back across to James. Hopefully James is not in a similar pose, because that would just be very awkward.
As that link began, I thought to myself, I know what's coming now. And yes, quite thankfully for all concerned, I'm not in the same position. Okay, this is the wonderful river system that I was hoping to come and see. What was that? Herbert is up top there. But you can see around us huge trees, beautiful thick bush, little cave areas like this where a little leopard cub might be stashed. And remember, for a while we couldn't find Thandi and Tlalamba when Tlalamba was very small, and it could have been exactly in a place like that she was kept. We have found further tracks. We found where hyenas were fighting over something earlier today, quite possibly a small thing like a scrub hare that maybe Thandi caught, but we think maybe the cub is somewhere around here. But who knows? It's just such an absolute privilege to be operating in this gorgeous area. Senzo, are you going to make it up here? He says, which I think means yes. Does it mean yes, Senzo? I don't think you're going to make it up here, because I can't make it up here and I'm not carrying a great big pack. You found a much better route. That was very clever. Good. Well done. Excellent. I found a tree I don't know. What this is? I think this is my Stroxylon aethiopicum, the kubbleberry, which again is not going to be particularly interesting to many people, but Gina, you say, we'll come over here, Sindel. Gina, you say our days getting shorter? Absolutely. That's why bushwalks are now only sort of 2.5 hours long. The sun's already sort of gone down, and we've probably only got about 40 minutes left on foot. And so, yes, they will get substantially shorter even than they are now. And I think our time change comes on the 1st of May, actually. Now, there is the web of the tropical tent web spider, which we often see, but we don't often actually see the spider. And there she is. Can you see her there? A big thing up there. Have you got her there? And that's her egg sac in the middle. She's a gorgeous spider, that one. Yeah, Paula, yes. Paula, don't go ewe at this one either. Although this one is slightly more ewe than the other one, because, of course, it does make a very, very intricate and cleverly designed web. And were, Paula, you to be shrunk into a very small person, well, you might fly into one of these knockdown threads here and fall all the way down into the web. And in fact, there is a little creature doing that. I saw it. It was a small green moth. Because once they get in, they cannot get out. They fly up, and then it's constructed such that basically every time you hit a knockdown thread, you get closer to the middle, and then eventually you fall down onto the net below, and you will be bitten and sucked dry by the spider. That's the egg sac in the middle there. Well done, Paula. You say you're not ewing anymore. Good stuff. Somebody else, of course, has just told me that they're so impressed with my ability to remember Latin names. And I've just seen a sneezewood tree, and I can't remember that. I learnt it recently, you see, and that's why I can't remember it anymore. I will keep trying. Let's go and see what Herbie's got over this side. Ah, but before we get there, Stivovo has found himself some more death in the sky.
We have indeed found another aerial predator, and I wonder if any of you out there who are watching the show and have spent time with our raptors can tell me what this is quickly. Hashtag Safari Live. It's got a very characteristic shape. It stands with a very upright, straight back, and the head is very puffy, with a very yellow eye, no feathers on the legs. Very easy bird to identify. Send through those comments really quickly and see who knows their raptors. This one is sitting tall in the tree, waiting for any movement on the ground. They can fly down and grab them, but might also be getting quite late in the evening, potentially getting ready to roost for the night. It's not an endangered bird and quite common in southern Africa. Similarly related to the Bateleur eagle. Project Alpha, you are 100% correct. Let's see anyone else who might manage to get the answer right. Well done, Project Alpha. Very characteristic shape. Catherine, indeed. A brown snake eagle. Well done, everybody out there. A very characteristic shape to the body. And if you look closely, you can see there's no feathers on the legs. But that yellow eye is very characteristic. Both the snake eagles we find here, they've got a yellow eye. And just that posture in the tree. Very tall, upright, standing bird. So 2 snake eagles in the afternoon. I think that is marvelous. We're going to, as I said before, continue on. Who knows what we might be able to find down this road. We're on Chitwa, slowly making our way towards Chitwa Dam. And well done to the birders out there. Keep up the good work. We're going to go to Chitwa and see what other birds we can find there. Let's go to James, who thinks he's found the correct scientific name for the sneezewood.
I have. Pterozygon obliquum. That's all I have to tell you. I obviously can't find you a Pterozygon obliquum now. They're the ones that Steph describes as smelling like those cheap flavoured cheese chips or crisps. It makes me feel quite peckish, actually. Not for those. They're disgusting. But that's what it smells like. That's the sneezewood Pterozygon obliquum. All right, the story here is that we can't find any further tracks of the cub or Tundi in the drainage system. So we're going to go up onto the road and see if she didn't perhaps head south as we slowly start to make our way back towards the camp. I'm just quickly going to look up here with my powerful binoculars. And listen for any further signs of distressed birds or frightened antelope. The joy one feels when you're looking like this and you suddenly spot the spots lying in the boughs of a tree. It's almost overwhelming. Unfortunately, that joy is not to be mine today. All right, come on then. Let's keep going. Something public. Who public? Fib public. You say the ancient Romans would be proud of me. Well, I hope they would. Of course, half of our Latin names are not in fact Latin, and they are made of Greek as well. So I suspect some of the ancient Romans may have struggled to understand me, unless they were well versed in ancient Greek, which I am not. Do you speak ancient Greek, Senzo? No, Senzo does not speak ancient Greek. He does, however, speak a language far more beautiful, in my opinion, and that, of course, is the language of isiZulu. Herbert is becoming increasingly frustrated about this afternoon. And can we just take a moment, please, to appreciate his hat? Herbert? Herbie? We would like to appreciate your hat, please. He looks something like an angry sailor this afternoon. Okay. Let's go across to Steve, who's found something that, well, probably quite unusually for this year, has just emerged from the ground.
How could Herbie ever look angry? I don't think that's possible. Angry sailor Herbie. We've found, first of all, a big pile of elephant poo in the road. It is not warm, but fresh, and a ball has been taken out of here, and here sits the ball right in front of me with a dung beetle attached to the side. And on my approach, he's decided to play dead and is sitting very still. But I'm sure in the next few moments we're going to see him roll that ball away, impressing his lady, wherever she might be, where they might potentially do a nuptial or brood ball, where he will actually mate with her on the dung ball itself, and she'll lay a single egg inside there. So the size of the dung ball is very characteristic for the size of the beetles, and this will get a little bit bigger as it rolls it away, picking up all sorts of sand and coating it in a nice sort of crust of mud and sand on the outside, completely enclosed with dung. And a lot of them are kept as food sources. The dung beetle can go back and feed on them, but some of them are there for, as I said, for the egg. The larvae will hatch inside and grow to complete its entire life cycle inside the dung. So the size of the ball is very dependent on the species, and it needs to be big because it needs to provide the schooling from that larvae, from the egg all the way up to an adult dung beetle. So all the way through university and preschool and all of those stages. And here he is doing the navigation. Dung beetles have the ability to climb on top of the dung ball when they hit an obstacle. For example, I am now going to just have an obstacle with my hand and force him to move around it. And what he'll do once he gets around my hand is he will then go back on top of the ball and then renegotiate his direction. Or let's see if he does that. I think he's managing to keep going. But every now and again, as they lose sort of direction, they want to be in a complete straight line away from the ball. It's as a means of competition. They want to get as much of this dung and move it away in a straight line to where they have got a hole and where they bury the dung. Francis is pushing with his back legs. The face is to the ground and the back legs are pushing up underneath. They're very, very powerful. Very powerful. I mean, that ball probably weighs 100 times his weight, and yet he's able to easily push it. But if you take a dung beetle and you put it inside your hand, it actually forces your hand open, how powerful their legs are. Very, very powerful. And he's now disappeared into the grass. And on that note, we're going to jump up and continue on and leave him to his nightly wanderings. And as James says, it is a strange time of year to be seeing dung beetles out and about doing their thing, because we're kind of at the end of the wet season, but yet I mean, we haven't seen many this year anyway, so it's nice to see some. That's probably my first proper dung beetle sighting in some time. On we go. Be careful not to ride over him. I nearly did, but we stopped just in time. And also don't ride over the dung balls themselves. There can be up to 600-700 beetles inside a ball of elephant dung. And, well, we continue down here, hoping to find a leopard. Thing would be nice. Let's go to Tristan and see if he's still with Hukumuri.
Well, no, we've lost Hukumuri. Unfortunately, Hukumuri went into a drainage line that was not crossable, and I've come around the other side thinking we'd just pick him up on the other side, no problem, and lo and behold, he's not there. He's not where we thought he'd come out, and so now I'm just doing kind of loops up and down trying to see where he could be, but the longer we don't have him for, the harder it's going to become to find him again. We know how elusive he can be from time to time. He sometimes doesn't really want to be found, and then he'll just lie down. So it's almost like he knew exactly where he was going, and he did it ever so nonchalantly. He just kind of dropped in and was ambling along, so I didn't think we would lose him, because to get around to the other side didn't take too long. It's just that he might have changed direction. He was sniffing around quite sort of intently. He was looking and smelling and rolling around and scent marking, so maybe he picked up a track for Tundi from the last couple of days and has just changed direction slightly. Not quite sure. I'm kind of just going along trying to have a little look and see if maybe, just maybe, he's come down this way.